Hi everyone, welcome to the Manifesting Straight Talk podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Jackson, and I'm a mindset and manifesting coach from the UK, and I am here to ignite that fire inside of you. If you know you were born for more and you've been thinking things have been feeling a little bit vanilla and a little bit stale, and you are ready to move things forward and manifest the life that lights you up, then you are in exactly the right place. Join me every week for mindset and manifesting tips, plus my weekly energy forecast, and let's get things moving in the direction that you really want to be going with your life, because you were made for magic and miracles, and this is your time. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's podcast episode. This week I want to talk to you about a really important topic. Now, I want to talk to you about resilience. We all think of resilience and we hear this word, and sometimes it can be so fluffy. But actually, let's dive into what it is and why it really matters. Because I don't think a lot of people pay attention to this, and it can really trip us up. Now, resilience to me is you at your highest potential. When you are your most resilient, you are your best self. You are showing up, you have energy, you are creative, you are at your highest performance level, your highest potential is being shown, and you are killing it. Let's be honest. Who thinks of resilience that way? We think of it as how you bounce back normally, but without building your resilience, you just can't bounce back. So resilience isn't about the bounce back. Resilience is about how are you making yourself get to that point where you can bounce back. And I want to share a story with you that I've been through that's really hit home of how important resilience is. Now, if you think of yourself as a fuel tank, think of yourself, you've got the petrol pump, people keep coming up to it through the day. You've got your kids, you've got your husband, you've got your work, you've got your travel to work, you've got all these different things that keep taking bits of fuel out of your tank. Different stresses through the day that just keep taking all this fuel. And when do you stop to recharge it? When do you stop to fill up your tank? And if I asked you at the minute, where is your tank? Is it full? Is it empty? Is it really at the bottom, like the red lights come on? Where is your fuel tank at the minute? Are you stressed to the hilt and you're just thinking, how can you get through each day? And your fuel tank is bare. There is nothing left to give. You are running on fumes, and that is not a good place to be. And most of us, most women in general, do run from fumes. We never think about putting our own priorities first and what actually fills up our tank. Now, there's loads of things that can fill up your tank, and there'll be loads of different things that actually drain your tank, but it's for you to understand what they are. And also, it is your responsibility to fill it up. No one else can do that for you. You don't need to wait for your husband to come in and say, I'll do that. We need to ask for what we want. We need to be able to brave enough and say, I need this. Because let me share my story and how this is so important. Now, going back to maybe 2016, I was in a low place. I had been working for years. I was constantly in the stretch zone, powering through, getting results, pushing. And I changed jobs and I moved into my new job with the same energy. And I was pushing and I was killing it and I was doing really well. I had a very, very successful career right throughout that time. And I kept going and I was smashing it. And then I got my job made permanent and it was great. And I was in this stretch zone, pretty much verging on strain. But that was normal to me. And that was where I had been for a long period of time. So I kept going and I was constantly, achieving, striving, kept going. Things were happening in my personal life, which were tough, but I'd power through and get on. I never thought about recharging. Then what happened was I switched jobs and I ended up working for a controlling boss. Very, very controlling, very, very micromanaging. I'd went from being ultimate, like powering through, doing my own thing, working my own routines, to now suddenly I couldn't do any of that. And that was taken from me. And I had to do as they said, which for me, when I've went from stretch and being completely in control to actually being bored, was awful. That was just so bad for me and my mentality. And then to top that off, along with appeasing this boss, because I didn't know how to work in that environment, I had to learn that, and I had to learn that fast. Otherwise, I was doing it wrong. So I had to learn all of that. Plus, things were happening outside of work. So outside of work, my mum's health took a turn. My husband actually moved to a different area for a different job. So we were then paying for two houses. There was so much external stress happening. And I was at the point of, oh my God, I am up against the wall. My fuel tank was empty. I was drained. I was angry. I was irritable. I was mad at the world. I was blaming everyone. I felt like work was awful, home life was awful. I felt alone. It was not a good place, and my mindset was shot. And I was at the point of brink. Now, at that point, I decided something had to change. And we often get ourselves to this part where the back's up against the wall and we're like, we've got to change something. So at that point, luckily, some internal nudge inside of me went, you need something for you. My nudge was saying, you need to fill up your tank. And at that point, I started going to the spiritual development class. I started going to the meditation. And that gave me a small part of something that started to fill up my tank. Now, that took me on a journey of doing lots of things that fill up my tank. And I'll tell you about them and how they are so important. But I just want to roll on to where I am now. So I've spent years doing different things and building my resilience over time. And this has started with meditation, boundaries, knowing who I am, knowing what I want. There is so many things in that I have started to put in place and are non-negotiables for me. Because I know when I am at my best, I am serving others at my highest. I know I'm nicer to be around, and I know I manifest like crazy. Whereas when I'm at my lowest, the world is just a dark place and everything is happening to me. So from doing my work, I never get back to that point, but I constantly fill up my tank. So I just want to show you how important this is. Over the last few years, I have been doing proactive resilience measures without even realizing it. And I'll dive into what that is. But proactive resilience is the things that accumulate over the time. The things that you do daily that you don't get loads of benefit from initially, but they really do help when you get a crisis. When things go to pot, you don't see the initial benefit, but it slowly builds. Now, for me, over time, those resilience measures has ended up me being in a healthier place, healthier relationships, healthier work-life balance. Mindset is so much better and energy levels are so much better. But that's been a slow journey of building these things up over time, which is that proactive resilience measures. And I'll dive into that properly. But I want to show you how important these proactive resilience measures are and what impact it has when you hit a crisis. So take 2016 out of the mix. Things got even worse in 2017, and it just heightened my need for this resilience. When it come down to last year, so 2022, September 2022, I was up against it, had a deadline that I needed to meet, a key target, a milestone that was coming in, and it took a lot of my energy. I was having to work long hours. I was having to do a lot of work as alongside the business. So that was in my leadership coaching realm. That was where I was up against it, and it was long hours, but I didn't want to let go of the business side. So that kept going. You might not have noticed. That's kept going in the background and ticking along and still striving and still being my priority. But I've also been achieving all this good stuff in the leadership coaching side too. But in the mix of all of that, then September 2022, which was a few months off this pinnacle point in this project, that was when my mum had a life-changing stroke. Literally, world turned upside down. She was not in a space like she was before. We were having to travel to a hospital, which was an hour away, somebody to go and see her every day. We were balancing my dad's emotions, my dad's resilience. We had him round all the time. So in and out of all that time, having this high level project, also having this personal circumstance that was happening, plus the travel, plus the business, plus keeping all the cogs turning, plus keeping me in a good place, you would think, how do you do that? Are you just going to crumble? And I looked back over the last 5 months, and this is still an ongoing process, but this has been 5 months of real life-changing stuff happening. And I looked back and I was able to see me now versus me in 2016. Me in 2016, the world had ended. I was literally running on fumes. The stuff that was happening to me, I wasn't in a position to cope because my resilience was shot. I had stretched and stretched and stretched so much that there was no more stretch to give. Whereas me now, I am in a totally different place because my resilience, my fuel tank is full. This happened, and yes, it took stuff out of the reserves, it took stuff out of the fuel tank, but not enough to get me back down to empty. And every time I felt it dipping, I had the things in place to charge it back up, to add that fuel back in. I've never in this 5-month period got to breaking point. I felt myself getting stretched. I felt the tank going to empty, and I have suddenly caught it and filled it back up. And what that's actually resulted in is me not being stressed through this situation, not thinking, why is this happening to me? Not thinking the world is falling apart. I've actually been able to look at it from a higher perspective, being able to look at it from the point of view of things happen, and life is not about shutting out the bad. Life's about being able to deal with it and move forward and take them lessons and become a better person off the back of it. So believe me, I have learned a lot over this 5 months, and I've learned a lot about myself. But it has showed me that resilience is super key. One thing I really do think my mum's illnesses have been down to was she never filled up her tank. She burnt herself out. She went and went and went. She was a strong woman, always working, sometimes up to 3 jobs, having 4 kids, running a household, being a perfectionist, and kept going, kept striving for probably 60 years. Now, she burnt herself out. Once retirement hit, it was a massive change and she was not ready for it. And that was a response of burnout. And what burnout comes from is not filling your tank. So there's different ways to fill your tank. And because I had done all the proactive measures between that 5-year period to where I am now, I was ready for a crisis. I was ready for a crisis, ready to deal with it, and ready to not let it knock me off balance. It has not knocked me off the focus of the business. It has not knocked me off performing at work. It has not knocked me off being a good daughter and being able to be there for my family. I have managed to do all of that and do it well. And when I've needed to ask for help, I have asked for help. But proactive resilience is the key to how I've been able to do that. So if you think about resilience in two forms, you've got proactive resilience and then you've got reactive resilience. Reactive resilience is the resilience you need in them crises. It's the one where somebody says something awful to you and you have to build yourself back up. Or something like that happens with my mum, and you need to be able to react in the moment. There's reactive resilience is in the moment techniques. So whether that is you taking deep breaths because somebody said something awful to you and you want to get yourself centered again, or needing to go for a walk after a long day's work, whatever that is, they are reactive resilience measures. But then you've got proactive resilience. Now, if you think of Batman and Robin, they are the dynamic duo. They are the ultimate opposite ends of the scale, but work together. And this is the best way to describe the difference between proactive resilience and reactive resilience. Proactive resilience is your Robin. Planful, mindful, thinks about things ahead, gets everything ready, does things for when that crisis hits. That's Robin. He's steady, he's really getting things ready, but you wouldn't want him to be the one fighting the battle in the crisis. He is the one doing the things under the radar, the things you don't tend to notice, the things you don't see as the showy part. But he's doing it daily because he knows that supports Batman be his best. So Robin is the ultimate proactive resilience. He's doing the getting everything ready daily, getting the good routines in place, getting the systems in place for Batman to go and make things happen. So Batman is your reactive resilience. It's in the moment. It's the fight or flight. It's the bit that goes, oh, I need to act. That is your reactive. So you'll have different measures in place for each. Hopefully you'll have both. Now, what we tend to do is, because it's not showing any results, or because we don't often see the benefit initially, we park the proactive resilience for another day. The things like eating healthy, the things like going to the gym if you need it, going out for a walk, getting in fresh air, reading a book, listening to music, whatever that is, whatever recharges your battery, we don't make them a priority every single day. So often that fuel tank is just dipping and dipping and dipping because we're not filling it up daily. So that's when we get into trouble. So I want you to think about your things that fill up your tank. What actually make you feel better? Does being away from your family for a bath make you feel recharged? Does 10 minutes of quiet time make you feel recharged? Does cleaning the house recharge you? Does going out for a run recharge you? What is it that you need to do to recharge your batteries and you have been parking because you haven't seen it as a priority for the things you need to do? We do this all the time, especially in our businesses. We get on, we crack on, we power through, we want to do the things that are going to make us make money, but actually we don't think about those resilience things from our energy reserves. So I want you to start to think about what charges you, what refills your tank, and what are you not prioritizing? Because that was the big difference for me. From 2016 to now, I refill my tank daily. Daily. There is no negotiation on that. If I feel myself dipping, I get the radio on. I get the songs blaring. If I need to, I get out for a walk. I meditate. I do my cards. I journal. I work through the emotions that are happening for me. I work through my mindset. I don't let my mind take over. Your mind is not a nice place and it will tell you nasty, horrible things if you let it. So we've got to do the mindset work. There is so much I do to keep my tank full. And if I feel it dipping, and sometimes we're all natural, I might let it dip for a few days and then I'm like, oh, let's get back to it because that feels wrong. So it could be a 2-hour bath for me 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes it's longer. I love a long bath. That just recharges everything. And actually, I'm the most creative in the bath. So often, some of the emails you get, I've been sending them from the bath. But you've got to do what fills you up. So because I have all these things in place now, I don't need that reactive resilience as much. The reactive resilience comes in and I go back to my stores. I've already got that buildup of fuel that it's going to take something big to knock me off balance. And even though something huge has just happened, it hasn't knocked me off balance because my resilience has been built up. My tank is full. There is room for a bit of depletion. And have you got any room for depletion in yours? We think that self-care and mindset work and transformational work is just a nice to have. Believe me, it is not a nice to have. It's a way to get yourself okay in a crisis. Life happens. You can't stop these big things coming your way. They're going to come and they're going to knock us off balance. But they only knock us off balance if we allow that to happen. Now, this hits home so big for me in the minute. But as well, just being able to see the growth, being able to see the change. Me in 2016 would have been me, probably wouldn't have even been one of my clients because I wouldn't have heard anything I was saying. I was in a completely different space. But me now, with all that resilience under my belt, with my fuel tank full, I am at my highest. I'm not a different person. I haven't brought out anything that wasn't there. It was all in me. 2016 me had all of this available. It was all there. It has all come through inner work. It isn't that I've added or gained something different. It's that I've accessed something different through the resilience, through keeping my tank full. You are not going to change who you fundamentally are, but you're going to heighten it. You're going to become a better version of you. You are going to become you at your best if you focus on what makes you resilient and you give it power and you feed it daily and you do those proactive things. Once you do that, you can handle anything. Nothing is sent to you to knock you off. Nothing is sent to you to really challenge you. What it's sent is a gift of learning. So I really hope you've listened to this and went, oh my God, I have no stores. I am fueled out. And if you have, then that's okay. But do something about it today. Because being able to look back and connect them dots for me has just been like, ping, such a light bulb going off. And I know that it is so important to fill my tank. And that is my priority. I can't fill anybody else's tank for them. So if you've been trying to do that, which is probably what 2016 me was doing for years, trying to fill someone else's tank and leaving myself on empty, it doesn't work. You can only help others fill their tank by showing them how you fill yours. So if you're not doing that, please change the game because you are here to be limitless. You are here for magic and miracles, and you are not here to live with a tank that is at the fumes level. So please start to do something that is going to up your game in this resilience, because going through what I've just been through and I'm still going through, this is a journey. This is a whole change of the way my family is going to work. It is going to take fuel, but I know I've got it and I know how to recharge it. So you need to do the same, because one day things will change and that's okay because you'll be in a good place to deal with them. So please take something from this, do something different, do something for yourself and build up your fuel because you are here for more. Don't feed everything into your business or feed everything into one aspect of your life. Feed some of that energy into you. I hope this resonates for you and you start to share with me what your resilience building tactics are, because I would love to know. So please share them in the Facebook group. It's Manifesting Straight Talk Facebook group. Come and join me in there and tell me what you're going to do differently to fill up your tank. and enjoy it. It's really, really fun. Catch you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you loved every minute of it. If you want to follow me on social media, all the links are in the show notes, and I will catch you next week for more Manifesting Straight Talk.